Good morning, algebraists. I apologize for not being there today. We had a family medical emergency, so I cannot be there today. This is the best I can do, so hopefully this works. We are going to solve right triangles today. The good thing is last week we learned all of the building blocks of trig. So using Pythagorean theorem, using trig, using inverse trig. That is all the information that we will need to solve these problems. Okay, so what does it mean when we say solve a right triangle? You need to find all the angles and all the sides. Okay, so things that you can use, kind of just listed off some of them. We can use Pythagorean theorem. That's going to give you a side length. We can use trig. That's also going to give you a side length. You can use inverse trig. That's how we solve for an angle. And we can use triangle sum. That's saying that all three angles in a triangle add up to 180. And that will also give us an angle. Okay, so we have this little almost like toolbox here of skills that we can use to help us out. Okay. So again, we're finding all the angles and all the sides. That's the goal here. So the directions, solve the right triangles. Short and sweet. How I like to start these is to make a list of my information. So the measure of angle S, the measure of angle R, the measure of angle T. I want all of that information. Plus, we're going to call it little s. Side little s is going to be across from big S. Little r is going to be across from big R. And little t is going to be across from big T. Now we have little r is 14. Angle S is 32 degrees. And angle R is 90 degrees. So now we are left with, what do we do now? Now, the first thing I would solve for, if you have two angles, the first thing I would solve for is the other angle. Now, remember, all three angles in a triangle add up to 180. So if I take 180 minus 90 minus 32, we get 58 degrees. So that would be the measure of angle T. Easy peasy. Okay. From here, it doesn't matter where you go. So let's just find side S. We can find side S or side T, doesn't matter. So when solving for sides, we're left with the Pythagorean theorem or trig. Now, because I only have one other side, I can't use the Pythagorean theorem, so we're going to use trig. So I'm going to start from that 32. S is the opposite side. T is the adjacent side. And 14 is the hypotenuse. We're solving for S, and we have our hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse mean sine. So the sine of 32 degrees is S over 14. So we can take the sine of 32 which is 0.5299 equals S over 14. Multiply both sides by 14. And we get S to be 7.4. Okay. Last, we need to solve for T. Here, now we have S filled in and R. You could use either Pythagorean theorem, or you can continue to use trig. I'll do an example here where I'm going to continue to use trig. So now we're looking for the adjacent side. I'm still going to use that hypotenuse because that's what they gave me to start the problem. So now we have cosine of 32 equals T over 14. So now we take cosine of 32. That's 0.848 equals T over 14. Multiply both sides by 14. And we get 11.9 with rounding. And that's it. We've solved the right triangle. Okay. I really like this list method off to the side because now we can really see once everything is filled in, we can see, hey, that is all done. We are done. We have all three angles and all three sides. Okay. Now let's try a different version. This first one gave us one angle measure other than the 90 and one side. What if it doesn't give us, any angles? Okay, so we have triangle LMN here. So we know we need to find the measure of angle L. We need to find the measure of angle N and the measure of angle M. So we need to find side L, like little l, side M, and side N. Okay. Now remember, the little letters correspond with the big letters. The little letters are opposite the big letters. So if this is angle L, 6 is going to be side little l. It's opposite of big L. That also means the little m is going to be 10. And we know angle M is 90. Great. So, where do we start? Well, I always kind of like to start where there's the most information. We have the most information on the sides, so let's find side N. Okay. In order to find side N, since we have the two other sides they were given to us, let's use Pythagorean theorem. Okay. So we have, there's N. So we have N squared plus 6 squared equals 10 squared. Remember, 10 is your hypotenuse, so that's going to go on the side by itself. N squared plus 36 equals 100. If we subtract 36 from 100, we end with 64. And the square root of 64 is 8. Well, that worked out nice. Next thing we're going to do is find one of our missing angles. Okay, so I'm going to start with angle L here. That's going to be our stop number 2. Okay. Now, when you only have the 90-degree angle, you have to use inverse trig. Okay. So, step 2, I'm going to look at angle L, label my sides. So here we have opposite, here we have hypotenuse, and adjacent. Now we have opposite, we have hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse make sine. So, SOH. So we have the sine of angle L equals opposite over hypotenuse. Now I can't take the sine of angle L in my calculator. So what we're going to do is we're going to use that inverse sine. The inverse sine of 6 over 10. And we can see then the measure of angle L is 36.9 degrees. Okay. Then to find angle N, we have the two other angles. You know that a triangle should add up to 180. So we're going to take 180 minus 90 minus 36.9. And we end up with 53.1. There we go. Now, once again, we have all elements figured out of our triangle, so we have solved the right triangle. Okay, let's try one more. Let's try number 3, just to make sure we got it. So number 3, we have triangle ABC. So we need to find the measure of angle A, the measure of angle B, the measure of angle C. And we need to find sides, little a, little b, little c. Remember that little a goes across from big A, so that's little a. Little b is across from big B, and little c is across from big C. So if we fill in what we know here, okay, the measure of angle A is 54 degrees. The measure of angle C is 90 degrees. And little a is 22. Okay. Now, pick your battles. Pick what's going to be easiest to solve for. I'm looking at this. I have more angles than sides, so it's going to be really easy to solve for the measure of angle B. So let's start there. Okay. All 3 angles add up to 180. 180. So we're going to subtract the 90 and subtract the 54. That leaves us with 36 degrees. So the measure of angle B is 36 degrees. Okay. Now we need to find one of the sides. It really doesn't matter which one we're going to pick to solve for first. We'll just go down the row and I'll pick B. Let's solve for little b. Okay. We are narrowed down into what we can use here. I only have one side, so I cannot use Pythagorean theorem. For Pythagorean theorem, you have to have two sides, okay? Well, we don't have that, so we can't use Pythagorean theorem. So to find another side, we're going to use trig. So I'll start with what's given. We had a. Little a is the opposite side. Little c is the hypotenuse. And little b is adjacent. We said we're looking for little b. And we have the opposite side. So opposite and adjacent mean tangent. So tangent of our angle, 54 degrees, equals opposite over adjacent. Okay, now we can take the tangent of 54. And that is 1.3764. Okay. Now remember our little hack from last week. Okay, we can swap the b and the 1.3764. So b equals 22 over 1.3764. Sorry, I gotta bust out my calculator here. 22 divided by 1.3764 is 15.9. So side length B is 15.9. Then last but not least, let's find side C. Now, since we have A and we have B, Pythagorean theorem is an option. So we have the two legs, we have A and B. So let's do Pythagorean theorem. 22 squared plus 15.9 squared equals C squared. 22 squared is 484. 15.9 squared is 252.81. If we add those up, we get 736.81 equal to C squared. So then we take the square root on both sides. And we end up with 27.1. Don't know what happened there. 27.1. And again, we can look and see all 6 values are filled in. We have 3 sides and 3 angles. All right. I hope all of that made sense. If anything is confusing, either A, send me an email, or B, go do your own research. I don't take offense if you didn't understand the way that I explained something in the video and you need a different video to supplement. Okay, go on YouTube, go on Khan Academy, solve right triangles. Okay. So there is worksheet number 3 in your homework packet on this. If you watch the whole video, I'll even give you half the amount of work. Let's do the evens. Worksheet number 3, evens. Odds will be extra credit. Okay? So worksheet number 3, evens for regular credit. Alrighty, I apologize. I should be back tomorrow. Again, thank you for bearing with me while this is happening. If you have questions, I will be around, so email me if you need anything during the day. All right, we'll see you guys. Bye.